On this episode, we punch each other in the cage match style. That's not what I wrote. Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia, one of your co-hosts. I am one of the original 7 and a parody of an 80s action movie icon.
And I'm Robbie. I'm a Taekwondo ace who's famous for my whirlwind of kicks and always seeks out a fight with my rival, whether he's a devil or not.
To you last week.
Last week I was Knuckles from Sonic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what you were, but I remember it being like really weird. I'm not
Well,
really
you know,
sure what
Sonic's
you
story can get a little weird.
It's a little dicey.
When you start being like, what does this character actually do in Sonic? You're like, oh, he's the guardian of the Emerald Crystal.
That's what it was. Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense, actually. Last week, I wasn't a hero. I was like the fat villain things from Little Nightmares. When you get toward the end of the game, you're like running across their table, and they're just stuffing their fat faces with gross piles of meat and stuff, and they try to eat you as you run by.
That's
that
awesome,
fit
dude.
very nicely into our Thanksgiving theme.
Sounds like some good life goals right there.
Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't become one of those
No, well...
after Thanksgiving.
No, I try to moderate, you know. You do a little of this, little of that, and then the pie, right? That all just slides through the cracks, so... On today's episode, we are talking about a subject I'm kind of excited to talk about because I don't really know that much about them, I don't think, because I hate them so much and I refuse to invest any of my time in them, and that is fighting games. What have you on the docket today, Robbie?
Well, okay, let's start with this, because I kind of got some stuff, but it's all over the place. So,
Yeah.
Let's start with this. You say that you hate fighting games.
True.
But you've played them, you and I have played them for like over a decade together.
Okay, to be fair, yeah, and as we dug into this episode and I kind of like went back down memory lane with some of the fighting games that I actually did play, there were some fighting games that I actually got really into. Maybe it was just a little bit more of a shift in my modern gaming history that I don't like them anymore, maybe is the thing.
Okay,
but
so...
Killer Instinct on arcade was like, if I had $10 from doing chores, I went to the arcade and I played Killer Instinct for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I distinctly remember playing Killer Instinct with you like at the skating rink or something.
Yeah.
Like we would go play Killer
that
Instinct.
game so much. And it was one of the games I was actually good at when I was little. And I would go and there would be these teenage kids that, you know, I was 8, 9. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but I was younger. And I would go to the arcade in my hometown and there would be older, like high school age guys, and I would just whoop their ass with Orchid like over and over to the point where like guys lined up and like would pump in quarters to like take me down and knock me out.
Yeah, I thought you played Orchid and
Killer Instinct on the arcade.
Did you play Kilgore or whatever the robot? You played him sometimes too, didn't you?
No, who was the Saberwolf? I played Saberwolf a little bit. I wanted to always be good with Jago.
Yeah.
The ninja guy, because I thought he was so cool. I sucked with him. But for some reason, Orchid, her moves made so much sense in how to put combos together, and I could get like the big ultra combos.
Ultra combo!
Yeah. And do her finishing move. Well, maybe that was the motivation, because she flashed her breasts, and I was like a prepubescent boy, and I was like, I will do anything to win so that I can do that.
I guess whatever motivates him. You're not the first man who's motivated to fight by breasts, I'm sure.
That's true.
Did you own it? I had it on Super Nintendo.
I got it on Super... Yeah, I did get it on Super Nintendo. It just wasn't the same. Like, that was, like, one of the last great arcade games in my mind. Like, really, truly legendary arcade games where people crowded around the machine and it was an event to go to the arcade and play that game. That was, to me, in my mind, one of the last great arcade games.
Okay, so that's a good... Actually, let's start there, then. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think it is that's so different? Do you think it's the public that makes it different between couch fighting games and arcade? Is it the public? Is it the challenge? Is it the I got next game? Because it's a little bit gladiatorial, I guess, when you're playing in at least it used to be.
Yeah, and in the times that I have played fighting games and enjoyed them, it was always, and maybe that was the shift, is like now so much of it's online and couch gaming is a little bit more rare. With things like Smash Brothers or Tekken or whatever, the times that it was funnest is when you had like a group of your friends all together in a room and it was I got next,
yeah,
that kind of thing. To me, that's part of the fighting game experience, and now that that's gone, now that it's, you know, married kids and homes and like you're not sitting, you don't have a room full of dudes eating Doritos and vying for next game. It's just, it's not Doritos. It's not, to me, it's not fun anymore.
That's fair. I mean, so I remember playing games in the arcade. I learned a lot by playing other people. Like I learned about cool combos and stuff. I remember playing Tekken and this older girl beating my ass.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're not doing enough grappling. She actually taught me how to play Tekken better.
Yeah.
And I was like super grateful and became a much better Tekken player
right.
after getting my ass kicked by this older girl. Older, like I was 10 and she was 13.
Right.
But you know, back then that's like decades.
Yeah.
Or like I played competitively, just unofficially, like Marvel vs. Capcom and and I remember people surrounding and
Yeah.
being like gasping and like watching a sports game kind
Yeah.
of, when you'd be like, oh, they just did that combo. And
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a cool experience to like be a gamer privately back in those days, like you and play like all the games we've talked about 100 times on here about, you know, like Zelda or whatever you're playing at home. It was like kind of nerve-wracking, like you said, like to like go out into the public arena and participate socially and like have to get your ass kicked and then step back and then wait for your next turn and you talk to people around you, and there's really no replacement for that in gaming that has emerged.
It's true, and I will say, I mean, we're a little bit older, so there weren't online fighting games. Like we did this, that was the only way you could play people outside of your circle of friends, was to go to the arcade and go get your ass kicked. And if people in your hometown sucked, I mean, that's what you were up against.
Yeah.
But that wasn't true in my experience. There were always people who were just super badass.
Yeah.
I couldn't even come close to beating them. And then there were people that you could tell sucked at the game.
But some people will carry that love of fighting games forward. Like I know a guy who's even a couple years older than I am, and when Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 10 came out,
one?
yeah,
Or
the
newer
new
one?
when the new one came out, he took time off work and played it for like 3 days straight and beat it with every character, and like it was a huge event for the new Mortal Kombat to come out, and he had all those same memories of like growing up playing them in arcades and those kinds of things. So I'm not sure why that experience feels, I don't know what you'd call it, authentic for one person who grew up playing in arcades and now plays online, and why it's totally just it's empty for me. There's zero value to playing a fighting game online to me.
All right, well, let's break down the fighting games a little bit. So, I mean, I think I don't know why, but to me it suddenly seemed so assumed what a fighting game was.
Yeah.
Maybe let's dig into it a little bit, because technically you fight each other in almost every video game, right? You're always fighting somebody.
Conflict.
But there's something different. So I was trying to think about, there's intense PvP. You can get that in a shooter. You can even get that in like some MMO. Well, at least like World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Like you can get that intensive PvP, player versus player, whatever, feeling that's kind of like a fighting game, or it can even be super technical.
Yeah.
It can be, but there's something different about it, right? So when we say fighting games, we mean like the traditional...
Well, it's a hand-to-hand combat, more martial arts oriented, typically like mano a mano, man on man, or woman on woman, whatever.
Yeah, if you're
man
playing,
on woman,
if you're playing Dead
woman
or
on man.
Alive,
Yeah,
it's
but one versus one versus one, like showdown
Yeah.
sort of thing, where it's hand-to-hand combat.
So, do you think there's something like ancient and like savage about being like, you and me, we fight to the death? Like,
Yeah.
do you think there's something about that appeals?
I think so. I mean, you and I, like growing up, like there was if shit got talked, like at school or whatever, it was like you settled it in Smash after school. It was a showdown kind of thing, and I think I like that aspect of it. It's kind of cool, but there's not really a whole lot of the rush or the satisfaction or whatever you want to call it in battling someone online that you don't know. There has to be some sort of personal stakes. There has to be some sort of personal pride.
That makes sense. It always felt kind of weird fighting the few times I've done it, like fought somebody online.
Yeah.
But like, I've also never gotten in as big of like real life fights with my brother as I did from a fighting game.
It's a higher level of competition, because if you're playing PvP, large scale PvP in Battlefield or Destiny or Battlefront or whatever you're playing, there's a team aspect to it. There's like some blame gets spread around and that kind of thing. Some accountability is absent. But like when it's a one-on-one showdown, it's like it's me versus you, and that's it.
That's true. And I guess
Like,
when you lose in a fighting match, you like have to go look yourself in the mirror and be like, you suck. Like there's no one else to blame but you. Like you dropped the ball, you screwed this up. You can cry, you can say whatever you want, but you're right. It's on you. The only time I've broken controllers in Rage fighting games.
Yeah.
The only time I've not the only time I've attacked my brother, but I was most likely to attack my brother growing up, like Street Fighter or Smash Brothers or whatever. So yeah, maybe there's that. Maybe there's like that responsibility, testing yourself against somebody. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of cool. Maybe I'm not as motivated by that as I get older.
Well, I just, to me, because I think I can be pretty childish and competitive and all those kinds of things. But the environment isn't there to foster that in gaming. It's not the same online, and the couch gaming aspect goes away as you get a little bit older. I would probably feel differently if I was in college in a dorm room and playing the new Mortal Kombat or playing whatever, Tekken 8 or whatever the hell's out now.
So, do you ever miss the satisfaction of like testing yourself and beating the computer at a high level or anything like that?
I honestly never enjoyed playing the computer. Let me say this too, though. Like, do you remember the days too when, like with Halo or whatever, where you'd go and you'd be like, you, me, 1v1 rockets on Hang 'em High.
Yep.
And that had sort of the same feel. And I don't think it's first person shooter or fighting game that has that aspect, but fighting games are 100% that one-on-one intense duel experience.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but So you never liked fighting a computer in fighting games?
No, I played Soul Calibur actually quite a bit. They had that Weapon Master mode.
Yep.
That was like the storyline kind of thing, and you would get resources. I think if I remember right, it's been a long time, but I actually really liked that. It had a little bit more story component, a little bit more that pulled you through more than just beat all the people and like beat the game or whatever. So I played that one quite a bit on my own, but and maybe Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on Dreamcast. I played that one a bit on my own, but other than that, I really didn't play fighting games ever solo.
Because I used to feel like a rush of cranking up the difficulty in Smash Brothers in the first one, and I used to be able to do it in all of them until this recent one. I can't quite do it. I used to like pride myself on, first I'll take 1-on-1 of the hardest computer, then 2, then 3, and I'd be able to beat them 1-on-3, like put them on a team. They weren't even attacking each other. 3 against me, and it just felt like loading up a mission in the danger room, like in the X-Men, you know, how like Wolverine would in the cartoon would be like, I'm gonna do this whole thing by myself. Like, it felt like, hell yeah, I just beat the hardest shit the computer could throw at me.
See, I get no satisfaction from that at all.
Really?
0. If there's not shit talking and I'm not rubbing it in someone's face that I like, I know, like, it's not fun for me. So, yeah, it's probably that I'm too competitive and I'm kind of an asshole is actually the reason I don't like fighting games anymore. And my outlets for why I liked fighting games in the first place are kind of gone.
Because you don't have somebody to throw in their face.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. So we used to fight each other in Tekken Tag Tournament was a big one.
Yeah.
Smash was huge. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
But I remember Tekken Tag Tournament being like lots of shit talking.
Yeah.
Lots of like bragging rights. I don't remember us having one in college. Maybe Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I don't think we played fighting games at all in college.
Maybe that was good because we were roommates.
Yeah.
So maybe we wouldn't have gotten along if it was. That's interesting. So why do you think a game like Smash Brothers, there's been imitators, but it's so different from your traditional fighting game? Because it's a little bit, sometimes it can be button mashy, sometimes it can be chaotic, fast-paced, technical.
Right.
You can do the duels or you can do the like...
Even the duels, though, don't have the same intense pressure of one-on-one. The environments are sort of shifting and there's items falling out of the sky, that kind of thing. And there's something about like a locked small room with 2 people in it punching the shit out of each other like a Mortal Kombat type game that's much more intense to me than Smash Brothers. And I think Smash Brothers is a little bit more accessible because even when you're doing one-on-one, it doesn't feel totally one-on-one.
Sure, but one of the things we used to do, and this is why I think Smash Brothers is so unique, is we would turn off all items, only load up Final Destination, which was just like a one platform, and then play it.
See, that's
like
different.
A fighting game.
That's different.
It would be like, all right, it's on. So like when I was, we weren't playing Melee together anymore at this point, but I was like training for tournaments and stuff. That's how we did it. We would settle it on Final Destination, all items off, 5 stock, let's do
just
this.
On fighting skill.
Just on fighting skill. And then there was no like, oh, well, you got a bomb or whatever.
Yeah.
And those were intense, dude. Like those got, like it was breathtakingly like dodging, juking. It was all on your fighting skill.
So I will say with Smash Brothers, to me there was something with like a Mortal Kombat type game where you have the energy bars and they just go down, right? And then they fall over and you win. There's something much more satisfying to like seeing your opponent's percentage creep up and then getting that last pop hit with the big explosion as they go off screen. Like a much more satisfying, like, yes.
And busting out that taunt while they're respawning. And you're like, that's right. Come on, get another round. So why do you think there hasn't been anything else? I mean, there's been some attempts, like PlayStation tried to do it. I remember some other games there's games that have tried to imitate Smash, but nothing has caught on. What do you think what is it that's it's so unique and people love it? I mean, it's got such a huge cult following even now.
I mean, because like with PUBG, with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, like Fortnite's a pretty decent knockoff. That's interesting. Like, why has Smash not been just knocked off? Like, why has PlayStation not done?
They tried.
Sony.
I mean,
no, I mean like a straight up full 100% knockoff where like you can play as Nate Drake.
No, they did. You could play as Kratos, and you could play as
Yeah. When was this?
It was for the PS3, and it was. I mean, it was okay. That was one of the better ones I'd ever seen.
I don't think I ever played that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's like and I'm sure it has like its own dedicated following.
Yeah,
but it just didn't feel the same.
I didn't.
That's the closest one I've ever seen, and I can't remember all the characters, but I remember Kratos was one of them. I don't know. Nathan Drake might have been in it. Like it had a bunch of iconic Sony, Crash Bandicoot, I think Ratchet or Clank or one of like.
See that actually? I mean, that sounds pretty good, but yeah, I will.
And it just didn't. It just wasn't the same. And it felt weird seeing Kratos fighting like in a cartoony sense.
Yeah.
But now it's not like, oh, it's weird to see Ganondorf or Cloud or any of those guys doing it. I don't know what it is, but there's like a magic about Smash, and I can still consider it a fighting game, even though it's.
It's definitely a fighting game.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else. Well, yeah. So anyway, I mean, there's been no other game that's really really succeeded.
I don't know. Nintendo, with their really good in-house proprietary stuff, they have issues with all kinds of third-party shit that's just mostly is all bad a lot of the time. That's changing with the Switch now. But the Zelda just outdid every other open-world game that's come out in a long time. Like, it's so freaking good, and it just has that Nintendo magic to it. And I don't know. It's really hard to articulate what makes Breath of the Wild such a magic special game that you can just play and play and play and play.
Yeah, but I mean, and I don't disagree with you.
But I think Smash is similar.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I mean, it's not like there aren't other really good open world. I mean, I hear Skyrim. People feel that way about it. I know I've shared my feelings on Skyrim, but even, Bethesda makes good open world. There's other good, really good open world games. And Breath of the Wild.
No, I'm not saying there aren't other good ones, but there's a little like je ne sais quoi magic to Breath of the Wild, and like Mario 64, and like these really classic games that no one knows quite what made it that perfect lightning in a bottle type game. It's just like Nintendo does something.
Well, I can say I still get the itch for fighting games. Like, I don't tend to get them when they first come out, but once they get cheap enough, I'll always pick them up. Like, I haven't played Injustice 2 yet, but I will. And probably within the next month, I'm going to buy that because it's
and Injustice 1 is like, that was one where I downloaded it, and it was like, I played a couple rounds against the computer and that kind of thing, and I was like, it was objectively a very good fighting game. Like, I could see that, but there was just no personal incentive for me to actually play it.
And see, I really do enjoy, like, kind of hearing the stories, if it's characters I like, and like hearing, what was the ending, or what are some of the exchanges when Robin fights Batman, and like hearing what they say to each other.
Right.
Like, I actually really like all those little intricacies and just learning the different fighting styles and stuff. I always play every Smash. Yeah. And like this one when it came out, I mean, my wife was pregnant, I think. So it was like, I'm probably not even going to be able to get good at this one. But I still beat it. Like, I've trained in it. I still practice in it. I've taught my son. That was the first game he learned how to play. Yeah. Like, I trained him. And now I like still like I'll take on level 9s with him just to help him learn like to get better. And he loves it. Like, I don't force him or anything, but I mean, he'll be like, hey, can we play Smash? I don't have the time to learn like 8 characters like I used to, but I still
get
like,
good with 1 or 2.
Yeah, and if a month goes by and I haven't played Smash, well, I need to fire it up. Like, I gotta hit. It's like I don't have a punching bag anymore, so I guess I gotta go fire up Smash.
So let me ask you the same question a little bit more broadly instead of what made Smash great. What do you think constitutes a good fighting game, in your opinion?
This is hard, and since I don't consider myself like a fighting game specialist, this is harder for me to answer because. So
let me since you brought it up, the Entertainment Software Association has like a survey thing or whatever, like a statistic on what genres of games sell what percentage of the market every single year. And fighting games are 5.8% of the total market, which is tiny, which is crazy tiny. And so you say you're not like a fighting connoisseur. I think most people are not fighting connoisseurs. And I think it's probably, as we've talked around this little bush here.
Are you talking about the president?
There's really not that many fighting connoisseurs out there, probably. And I think there's probably many more people out there who play them casually and buy them to just play with friends on the couch and occasionally and that kind of thing. I don't know how many true fighting game connoisseurs there are out there.
True. I haven't encountered any outside of Smash. I know there's still Smash tournaments like at your local games every week.
The guy that I know who was just like a diehard Mortal Kombat fan, I never heard him talk about any other fighting games, but Mortal Kombat was like his game. So maybe there's more like loyalists to a specific fighting series, more so. That
could be true, but fighting genre gamers are like their own subculture. They're very dedicated. They do tournaments all the time.
And I know there are tournament spaces that are like privately formed little arenas, like in basements or in rented out spaces, and that kind of thing.
Like but little fight clubs or whatever.
When the arcade went away, they went somewhere else. Yeah. For the diehard people.
Yeah, they went underground. Yeah. I mean, there's still world tournaments. They still show up at expos and stuff. Yeah. And they're great to watch. I mean, it's really cool. And I think especially as a casual player, like watching some of those guys that are pros, like play fighting games, it like takes my breath away. I'm just like, I can't think that fast, let alone like what they're doing. But to answer your question, I think what I like in a good fighting game is an interesting roster. And the roster is really important to me. If I hear a new game coming out and I see it's like 6 characters and I only care about one of them, I'm not even going to consider it. I like some of this just goes back to what I've played as I grew up, but it's got to be like a series that I've liked throughout the years. Right. I never was a big Mortal Kombat player. So when they're like, hey, the new Mortal Kombat's coming out, I'm like, I don't give a shit. Injustice, even though it's like the same people, I like the DC characters. So I was like, oh, this will be great. I mean, it's just a Mortal Kombat game with DC characters, but it's still, I was good with that. I liked the roster. I liked enough of the story just to be interested in what came out. For a long time, Tekken was the same way. I was like, oh, I wonder what Jin Kazama's doing next.
And that was such a breakthrough game when it came out that it was like everyone just had to play it. And then you sort of got, if I remember right, that was one of the first games that did like cinematics.
Yep.
That like really had a story around each character. And so as the Tekken games continued, you sort of got bonded to certain characters.
And I would be interested in following, like, okay, well, I know in Tekken 3 they were doing this.
Yeah.
What are they doing in Tekken 4? What's their motive?
Yeah.
Why are they entering the King of the Iron Fist tournament or whatever? And I've fallen off. I think they're up to Tekken 7,
I think, yeah.
And I think I stopped playing at like 5.
That sounds about right.
That still motivates me though.
Yeah.
Like I really like to play through, if I'm playing, since we don't play competitively, I don't live in a dorm room with dudes eating Doritos, as you said. So now it's more like if I'm not going to train in it like I do in Smash Brothers, which is probably the only game I still put the time in.
Yeah.
Now I kind of just want to see the story and see the characters. And I want my characters to feel like I'm fighting with a different character. If they all feel kind of the same, I hate it. It's boring. So those are probably like, so the richness of the characters.
Right.
And a lot of those things I just said probably don't sound unlike a story game. You know what I mean?
Well, that's interesting because typically I'm the one saying all the things that you just said, and I don't give a shit about any of that. And when it comes to like the fighting games that I do like Soul Calibur, Tekken. I did like Tekken. There has to be more dimension to it than two people hopping around on a 2-dimensional plane. If there's not more to that, like I liked the parry system and how you could move in a 3-dimensional space in Soul Calibur. That was huge to me.
Yeah.
So beyond just the fact that I don't like it if I'm not talking shit in someone's face. Yeah, I like the more Fight Night that was on the Xbox 360, original Fight Night. That was one of my favorite fighting games of all time.
And we actually did fight each other in that. That was actually really fun.
Yeah.
I think you had it, and we would...
we played it a lot. But like the 3-dimensional aspect of feeling like you could move a little bit more and maneuver a little bit more than just being stuck on a 2-dimensional plane is huge. And the other one too is, and this is, I'm sure this makes me a casual, because like as you said, there are like connoisseurs and virtuosos who they just know how to put those moves together no matter what fighting game they're picking up. To me, as a little bit more of a casual, like I want a combo system that is sort of easy to get and progress in and feel like I'm getting better at the game, because too often it just feels like you jump in and it's button mashing and it's chaos and then the fight's over and that's it.
Yeah.
It seems like there's very few fighting games that actually have like a really meaningful thought out combo system that you can pick a player and learn how to string things together.
Yeah.
In my opinion anyway, I feel like it's just batshit chaos most of the time.
And some of that could just be the difference of learning it versus like what it looks like or what it is the first. Like I saw the stuff that came out with Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, and I was like, no, I don't think so. And then I actually saw two guys sit down on a couch and play it, and it looked really cool.
Yeah.
And I was able to see more of like the technical aspects of what they were doing.
Right.
And that made me a lot more interested. But up to that point, like I'm never even gonna play this game.
Marvel versus Capcom, even though that was a 2D one, there was like other layers of dimension with having the three characters and like knowing when you can tag in and out, and there was a progression to that of like finding your team and then learning when you should tag in, tag out, those kinds of things.
But it wasn't until like I sat and watched it and gave it an honest, what are they doing, and watched, and they were playing it kind of like an arcade style where like several people were switching out, and that gave me then I was finally able to see how deep it actually could go, and that now I'm like, oh, when that gets cheap, I'm totally gonna pick that up because it looked really fun. Do I have time for a last story?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna call out my cousin on this one. So I found out him and his friends were like this Smash Brothers cult. He was young, living with a bunch of dudes, going to college. He was like, yeah, we play all the time, and I didn't even recognize how they spoke. They were talking about the length of moves. They'd be like, well, that's a 6-frame move, and this character's rated this, and all this technical shit that when we were playing, like, well, we didn't really have much. I mean, the internet wouldn't have.
Who do you play with, Roy?
Yeah,
like
I played this guy.
But
they had it all like broken down to a science, and he was like, so what do you play? And I was like, oh, these are the characters I roll, and he was like, oh my god, that's like an 8-frame character, and all this shit, and I was like, I don't know what that means. So when the new Smash came out on 3DS, they had a free demo you could play. So he showed up at my house and was like, I'm gonna whoop your ass and show you how it's done. And I hadn't really been playing. He played every day, and I whooped his ass. And he was really good, and we had some back and forth, but overall, I came out on top. Yeah. And it was kind of interesting. Like, you can add all the technical jargon. You can have some streamer who tells you that this is how you play, but you still gotta. It's kind of
interesting because it's like you can't learn intuition. You can't, like, you know what I mean? Maybe it's not that different from like professional boxers. Like really great boxers have intuition and heart that isn't learned in the gym.
Yeah, that's true. And also, I mean, think about how much time I've put in. He's much younger than me. He's like 12 years younger than me. And I'm like, son, I've been playing Smash Brothers since before you were a twinkle in your mother's eye. I mean, that's not entirely true, but he was probably like 5 when I was training with Ness and fighting you and all of our friends back in junior high. You know, it was. And
I've heard people who do the MOBA games.
Yep,
is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And the context of it was the AI that just beat a bunch of League of Legends players that were like the highest, best League of Legends.
Really?
And Elon Musk's company, DeepMind, maybe? Look it up. He developed an AI that learned all the top players' things in like 2 games and then like beat them or something. Right. Pretty cool. But the top players were talking about how to really be a professional level player, you just had to play a lot with every character to just learn.
You have to learn everything.
Yeah, and that they said that it's like the 10,000 hours kind of thing, is that there's just situations and hunches and intuitions you get from just playing the game a lot and being exposed to a lot of different conditions and scenarios. And so it probably is like a time put in factor there for sure.
Right. And there's also something too, like if there's a popular, I mean, maybe the internet and just that kind of information did him a disservice.
Yeah.
Because if you think, oh, well, this is how everyone plays, the guy who's never read that before is like, I didn't know that's how we're playing. You know, he might beat your ass because...
And it's shocking how many times people who don't know the rules, like, just do their own thing and smash all that shit out the window.
Yeah,
and,
it's like, oh, I didn't know that I can't be good with this character. Yeah. Well, I'm going to do it anyway, you know. I think that's always refreshing because, again, I think there are some parallels of, like, that skill or whatever of being like, well, that guy had heart, had intuition, and you were able to come out on top. And I think it's cool that you can do that in fighting games.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please listen to all our episodes. I mean, come on. They're like 20 minutes, most of them. What are you going to do? Not listen to them?
Look,
if you got to this point, you enjoyed it. So just go download.
You're going to love it. I guarantee it.
You can't guarantee it. Men's Warehouse got sued for using that phrase.
From who?
The government or something.
I promise.